Hello everyone, hope you're doing well, hope you're looking after yourselves. Welcome back to another episode of the Hustle Chronicles, where we learn about innovative businesses, creative freelancers, essentially people doing really cool things. And as you know, with this podcast, we not only speak to them, learn a bit more about their journey, discuss the area that they work in, but we also aim, and we're actually, funnily enough, approaching that point where we're going to be bringing back some of our guest speakers who appeared in our first couple of episodes, because it's been coming up to some of them almost a year since we launched that podcast. So yeah, keep an eye on the space. You might see some familiar faces on this podcast soon. But we've got a great business, a great speaker, and we're going to learn a bit more about them today. As I always say, I don't like to introduce or to read off their own bio. I think it's great for us to hear directly from the guest speakers that we've got. So instead, I'm going to hand over to Jordan. Jordan, first off, thanks again for coming onto the podcast. We're looking forward to learning a bit more about you. But yeah, could we please to start off with a bit more about you, what you do, your business, what it's called, and then we're going to dive straight into the first question afterwards.
Sure. Thank you very much for the great introduction there, Jeffrey. So hello everybody at home, listening, watching. So yeah, I'm Jordan, and I am by trade a marketing professional. I've been a marketing professional in the corporate world for 8 years, and I now run an award-winning web design and SEO agency, specifically for small to medium enterprises who are looking at growth. So yeah, kind of about me. I started my journey in the marketing world as an apprentice, and I was in the apprenticeship for a year, and then I stayed on at this company, and then transitioned to a larger company, and was in that company for about 5 years. And then I kind of, through a friend actually, got the idea of starting my own business. Never saw myself as this leader, and just through circumstance, I ended up, creating Just Realistic Marketing, and that kind of led me to where I am now. So.
Oh, perfect. I'm going to see if this works. Yeah, there we go. Round of applause. Because I guess first off with the awards, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's an amazing thing to have accomplished. But also, I think it's great to hear that, like you said, you didn't know the business, and being like a founder of a business wasn't like a goal. Essentially, like from the beginning, because I think sometimes people think that it's almost like there's like a massive bright neon sign that pops into people's heads, and it's just like, yeah, today I'm gonna change my whole life. I'm gonna found my own business and do all of this. But yeah, it's nice to always be reminded that, as you mentioned, that's not the case for everyone. It definitely wasn't the case for myself. But yeah, I think it'll be really cool to dive into your journey, and we're gonna do just that with the first question. Now, the first question is all about, as you mentioned, you are the founder of Just Realistic Marketing. And I think it'd be really great to learn what inspired you to transition from, being a corporate marketing professional to going into founding this company in 2022. Can you share the journey of what happened? How did that journey look? But also some of the challenges you faced while sort of moving from, I guess, one space into another.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And a really great question. And there's a lot to the journey, I think. So the way I kind of transitioned into starting my business was I was at my corporate job, and I'd been there for about 5 years almost, probably about 4.5 years. And I got a friend who used to work at the company and then moved on, and he's quite business savvy. And we're always kind of like talking about business and throwing ideas at each other on how we can, start up and do something. And, with that entrepreneurial mindset, it's, you've got loads of ideas and you want to do this, but then it kind of never comes to fruition. But long story short, he sent me a YouTube video of a guy called Iman Gatsi, and he started his own digital marketing agency. I think maybe 4 or 5 years prior to me starting my own. And I watched a few of his videos, and it really got me thinking, why don't I do this? Strangely, it never crossed my mind. As you say, it's not a linear process to becoming an entrepreneur and being a leader, but it really kind of inspired me. I've been doing this for a while, maybe I can give this a go and, build something that's for me and, allows me to serve and, put my skills to the test and, see where it goes. So, as I said, I was kind of stagnating in the job and I wanted to do just something different, but I kind of didn't want to get another job because I kind of felt like I was doing sort of the same thing and I wanted a new challenge, and this really gave me this challenge. So I started building a website and I built that back in August 2022. And it took me about 3 months to get everything, to a comfortable place. And then that was when it was like, oh, okay, right, I have a 3-month notice period. It's like either take the leap now or I'm never going to do it. So I took the leap, handed in my notice, and that would have been in about November time, 2022. And then it kind of hit home that, oh, I'm actually doing this now and that. And then I obviously started working on the business more, and then left that job in February, and then it was like, oh, bugger. Now I've really got to, step up. And that kind of was the launch pad for my journey, because now it's like, okay, well, I'm relying on this on my income, and it's, now I have this golden opportunity where I'm, actually in this business full time now. And I just kind of dived in from there, and the whole process, it's really a lot of learning, because, jumping from being in-house to building a business is completely different. Definitely. Completely. If you've never done it, then, good luck. But, it's been a journey that I've truly, truly enjoyed it. And I have grown so much within the space of, nearly 2 years doing this than I have in the whole time of my marketing career. And I think that in itself adds value to you, just for, even if you don't continue doing it, not for me, I'm going to keep doing it. But it just adds so much value just to get into the, that leadership mindset and entrepreneurial mindset. And, you're kind of a walking, talking brand now.
Exactly.
But in terms of like some of the challenges that I faced, so really early on, I originally we were called Just Realistic Media. Okay. And the premise was that for that was kind of based on the guy that I'd looked at who started his business. It was called IAG Media. It was just like a play on words of his name and then media, and then I kind of did the same, but rather than using JR Media, I did Just Realistic Marketing. The idea, Just Realistic Media, sorry, the idea around it was that I wanted to do marketing that was like realistic, because I feel with a lot of agencies, they kind of try to get you to do stuff that you don't really need to do. And I kind of wanted to change the perception of people. Oh, it's a marketer. Oh, they're going to get me to do loads of different things. And rather than, nurture that kind of mindset, it's like to change people's opinions and say, well, actually, you can be an ethical marketer, and you can, actually genuinely have the best interests at heart for your clients, which is what I aim to do with the agency. But long story short, like very, very early on, we rebranded, and that had its own challenges, because I'd done a lot of work on the SEO and the website and building up this reputation, and it was going really well. And that was about 6 months into the journey, and I was just like, I need to do this now and change it. Otherwise, in the long term, it's going to be even harder, and I've built up even more of a reputation. So we rebranded from Just Realistic Media to Just Realistic Marketing. It made sense to me because obviously what we do is marketing, not media per se. And then, that was a challenge in itself. And then also, I think mental health is a big challenge when it comes to being an entrepreneur, because at the end of the day, like I said, you are your biggest fan. You are the person representing that brand. And, there are days when I don't want to do it. There are days when I just wake up and think, this is tough. Like, this is tough. And, my vision of where I want to be now isn't quite there yet. And it's, it's trying to, I think, how I kind of overcome that is being kind of true to my why. And that kind of goes back to I think you asked earlier about in my bio where I said, I kind of want to break free from this life of smallness. And the premise behind that is because throughout my career, like I've always felt like, it's kind of like subconsciously I knew that I was a leader, if that made sense. And like I weren't given necessarily all the right opportunities to excel where I thought I could excel. And building this business has given me just that platform to be like, okay, I am the leader now. Like I am it. Like I embody this leader, and I have to be it. And that's kind of the premise for it. You know, just being less small, like because in the corporate world, if you're working for a big company, even a small company, like it's easy to get swallowed a little bit. And you know, I'm the leader of my company now, so I'm the face. That's why I'm here. You know, to get us out there and talk about it. But that's some of the challenges. I don't know if we have time to keep going on about it, but I could just discuss some of the other challenges. Like obviously, there's like motivation as well behind it, like because you haven't got the incentive. I've got to be in work for 9 o'clock. You know, I have this. Well, obviously, if I'm working for a client, I do have these deadlines and projects, but it's very different to be getting up for yourself than it is for somebody else. And I think also back to, you know, the life of smallness part, what I realized as well is that in working for these companies, like I'm kind of building somebody else's dream, and it's not, you know, building something that is for me. Because essentially, when you're building a business, I'm sure we'll pick up the mic, you know, it's a reflection of yourself as well. And like you put so much time and effort into the business that, you know, it's part of you now. You know, it's your baby. And, you know, it's a tough challenge to overcome, because you got to remember, you know, why am I doing this? I'm doing this because I want to build a life that's, you know, meaningful to me, and you know, where I'm allowed to serve people when I really do good work, and people recognize the work that I do, and you know, I lead a team that, you know, love the work that we do and appreciate me as a leader, all those kinds of things. But if you're not an entrepreneur or considering it though, you know, you will face a lot of challenges, but when you start to notice, you know, the fruits of your labor, it will all be worth it. And I think you just got to be true to your why. I'm sure you must have a reason as well, Jeffrey, for, you know, starting pick up the mic, and it's, you know, trying to remember that whenever you encounter tough days, because you will encounter tough days.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, it's completely like what you said, like there are certain days where, as you mentioned, you know, sometimes I don't necessarily want to work on the business, or there are days where, you know, I would prefer things to be a bit more slower paced. But as you mentioned, it's about remembering your why, and like why you work, like why you do the work that you do. Is it because, as you mentioned, you know, you're supporting someone else? Is it because you're sort of empowering people? Is it because you want to change someone's story or perspective? And just going back to that is important, because it allows you to sort of remember that you're not, I guess, like what you said, like the difference between, I guess, being an entrepreneur or freelancer compared to like just working 9 to 5 every day is, you might not always see, like, depending on the work you do, you might not always see that direct benefit. Even, to be honest, even as a founder, you might not necessarily always see that direct benefit. But sometimes, depending on the job you do, you might not necessarily see the impact that you're having on people. But when you're sort of like running your business, sometimes you will see that a bit more often. So whether that's with like client feedback, whether that is with sort of like someone getting in touch with you and saying they were recommended by someone because someone said, you know, they worked with you and had an amazing time, and they sort of like cheerlead and shout you from the rooftops because they really believe in like the mission that your company's doing. There's all these like different things, and it's just having those and remembering your why is so important to sort of like ensuring that the work you do keeps not only to the sort of like quality that it is, but it also encourages you as an individual to just keep on going back to it, focusing on like your why and ensuring that it's never sort of forgotten, or it's never sort of like you're doing stuff for your business that is so off your why that you're just doing it, like you said, like just because maybe you got a marketing consultant and they said that you should do certain things because it's trendy, or, you know, you yourself, you see that another company's doing jumped on a trend, it gave them like loads of engagement, so you're trying to do the same thing, so you're just copying them because you think it's popular. No, it's about thinking about what the work that you do, and if the work you do doesn't necessarily feed back into that why, is this stuff that you should sort of continue to be doing and things. So yeah, it's a really cool thing. But yeah, I think you sort of mentioned it as well. And I think it'll be good to sort of, so you've discussed, obviously, as you mentioned in your bio, this need or like the importance of rebelling against a life of smallness. But I think it'd be really important to focus on how does this philosophy influence the way you approach web design and SEO, or if anyone doesn't know, I know we sort of throwing that word around, but search engine optimization for growth orientated SMEs. So what would you say that how does having that as sort of like a philosophy when it comes to the work that you do, how does that influence the way that you approach working with these growth orientated SMEs?
Yeah, sure. No, that's a really good question. And I think it kind of boils down to, obviously you've got your why, and my why is obviously rebelling against the smallness. And I think it's, the outcome of the work that you're doing. So whenever I approach a project, I always have this kind of visualization of how I want this project to finish, and how I want the client to react when it's done. And that's certainly reflective through the testimonials that we have. And I want a project when it's completed to really give that client, oh wow, I never realized that my website could perform this well and look as good as it has. And one of the recent clients I worked with, she was a coach, or is a coach, sorry. And she founded the business with her husband, and they've been running for about 10 years. And they asked me for support with redesigning their website and implementing SEO best practices on that, because that comes custom with any web design project that we do. And then for digital marketing strategy support. So the outcome of it was that she'd obviously had this website for a very long time, and she kind of developed this tunnel vision for it, and she's actively making changes to her website. But the trouble is that she's got this tunnel vision, and you can't really see beyond what it is. And whereas I've got fresh eyes, I came in and I really was like, okay, right, so we need to change all these different elements in order to get your engagement up there, and improve the usability of these websites, and then implement SEO best practices to give your website a fighting chance of ranking well. And that's kind of how we approach projects, to make sure that we have a clear understanding of what the business goals are, what it is that they're doing and why they're doing it, because if we understand their why as well, it makes it easier for us to communicate that in the website. And then, obviously, implementing all of these things, at the end of it, the client was extremely satisfied with everything that we'd done, and I think she was very surprised at the level of quality that we provided. And she actually said, I'm never thought that my website could look like this, and it's down to that tunnel vision. And I think that's why it's very important, when you're choosing a service provider, especially for web design, because your website is, it's your shop front of your business, and it's incredibly important to make sure that you select the right partner. And that's why, when we work with our clients, we really want to reassure them that the work that we do it because, we have a clear why on why we do it, because we want to make sure that, you get a high quality service and it delivers the results that you want. Yeah, man, I
definitely agree. And honestly, I think having that as like as an ethos, as a mission for your business is a clear way to ensure that sort of like you said, like small, like these SMEs aren't sort of seeing themselves as like, we're a small business, we can't benefit, we can't have a website that looks really great, that we're proud of, that we feel like represents us in a good light. It sort of shows that, as you mentioned there, that like any business can sort of have, like, essentially there's nothing stopping you from having what a bigger business has. It's just about, like you said, think about the marketing strategies, the tools you use, the services that you work with to sort of create the website or the web page that you're looking for. Honestly, man, thank you so much.
No worries. Just one thing to add there as well. I think like just to touch on the point about obviously being small to medium businesses. The reason why we work with them is because obviously with larger corporates, it's difficult for an agency to support larger corporates, but also what we recognize as well is that, the smaller to medium businesses really do need support. And like, as you said, it can be, a challenge for people to say, well, how can we be more competitive in this market? And going with a good service provider that actually understands what you're doing really gives you that competitive edge. Because again, as well, it's every market is in itself is kind of saturated in some way, unless you're really new developing technology. That's just the modern world nowadays. Everybody's, especially since COVID, all businesses are going digital now, and I think there's still a lot of businesses that are having that challenge with going digital, and that's why I think it's also important to have a trustworthy service partner who can support you with those growing business needs, because it's gonna develop, especially with AI now and all these AI tools which are popping up and saying we can do this, and it's the modern business world is changing, and it's changing incredibly fast, and I think businesses need to adopt it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think sort of linking into where you ended with that question, it nicely follows into our next one, which is all about like innovative marketing strategies. Now, it'd be really interesting if you could discuss some of the innovative marketing strategies that you've sort of driven that have brought triple-digit growth for your clients.
Sure.
But also talking about how do you tailor these strategies to meet the unique needs of the SMEs that you work with?
Sure. No, that's a really great question. So one of the triple-digit campaigns that I worked on was for an electrician's business. They've been operating for a little bit, and they really just wanted to drive traffic to their website. So what we offer on our website is a number of different free marketing resources. Obviously, if we're supporting businesses with those, we would obviously charge a fee to support them, but we do offer a lot of free resources because there's so many out there. But one of the resources that we offered was we're able to new businesses who haven't capitalized on it is LinkedIn ad credits. Now, you might be wondering, what does an electrician have to do with LinkedIn? Is that the right place? Well, in terms of this client's goals, which again is another way that we tailor our campaigns, is that we really sit down with the clients and get to understand what it is that they're trying to achieve, from what are their business goals, why they do what they do, and also, what challenges they're facing. And in doing so, it really gives us that, that grasp of what they're trying to achieve. Because, it's all well and good to say, I'm trying to get more visits to my website. Why are you trying to get that? What are you encountering now? And I think the challenge was that they're trying to break more into the commercial property side of things, because they were doing like residential, so helping like just people in the local area, doing all these electrician jobs, but they were trying to break into into the commercial property. And obviously a lot of commercial business owners would be on LinkedIn. So what we did was set up this campaign. And it was a really minimal budget because they were capitalizing on the £100 LinkedIn ad credit. So we ran it literally over 2 days, which is an incredibly small campaign for, paid advertising. Those, paid advertising professionals out there would probably agree with this, but, a lot of ad campaigns ran for a much longer period and with a larger budget. But what we were able to do was create a really captivating campaign with the client. Some really nice visuals, some great text, and an interesting offer. And what we ran that over 2 days. Used obviously the £100 budget, so they didn't need to add any money to the budget because they used that. And what we were able to do is, I think it was an 800% increase in their website traffic. We generated a lead for them, a high quality lead, and it really helped to boost the presence of their business. And that was just one of the campaigns. We've done a number like that, and it really doing campaigns like that, the clients really recognize the value that it adds, even for such a small campaign. And there was another question that you asked, and I just forgot what it was.
So the two questions was about some of the discussing some innovative marketing strategies that you've done, but then it was also how do you ensure that you tailor these strategies to fit the unique needs of the companies that you support?
Okay, yeah. So I did kind of touch on that. So so to tailor the strategies, what we really like to do is sit down with our clients and make sure that we fully understand what it is that they're trying to achieve. So all the dynamics of the business, if they've got certain co-founders in the business, how long the business has been operating, what marketing strategies have they tried in the past, if any, what are their clear business goals. Just an example of another kind of strategy that we implemented with a client was that they were looking to increase their LinkedIn engagement. So we sat down with them and said, right, let's take a look at the current state of your LinkedIn. What content are you producing? How are you interacting with people? Are you actively going to the networking events, promoting your LinkedIn pages? And what we figured out was that they had a fairly decent profile for themselves. And I think, as a business owner, people interact with people more. And it's really important to, be posting on your personal pages. But obviously, if you're trying to build up a company, your company needs to be present as well, and it needs to be known. And they just weren't capitalizing on the business aspect. They had the personal good, but they weren't consistent in what they were posting. And it was like, sat down with them to implement a social media strategy whereby, they're producing regular content. You can do things on LinkedIn where you invite your followers, your connections, to become followers of pages, and just do a couple of those simple little things, increase engagement tenfold. And we were an admin on their page, so we could regularly see, how many people are starting to follow the page. And I think, if memory serves me, it's around about 30 to 40 followers that they had initially. And then, by the end of, the first couple of weeks after inviting all these people, they had well over 150. And it's like, doing these things and then implementing the social media strategy where they're constantly creating engaging content in a consistent way. We help them achieve their goal, which was to generate more traction on LinkedIn. So that's how we would approach working with any client, is to sit down, make sure that we understand your business, and then tailor our services around what you're trying to achieve.
No, that's really good. And I definitely agree. It's clear to see that, which is, great, that you, as a company, you guys don't have a one shoe fits all sort of method. Because I know, and I think, as you mentioned, sometimes with bigger organizations or bigger agencies, there is that, just because you're working with so many different people, you've sort of they're depending on the size of the team, maybe people are working with more than one business. So there isn't always that flexibility to sort of tailor things specifically to the needs of the customer. But I think, as you mentioned, the great thing about your company is that you're able to do that because you focus solely on supporting those small to medium businesses, and you can sort of have those, like you said, those in-depth conversations. You can focus and say, this is where, okay, let's discuss your goals. What do you want to, what's the goal here? What are you trying to get out of this? What's your budget? What do you want to see sort of increased? What's the sort of trackable goals that that were actually beneficial? So it's not, as you mentioned, just I want to increase traffic to my website. Okay, cool. How much do you want to increase it by? When do you want it to be increased by? Because I think even briefly to touch before we go into the next question of with YouTube and stuff, is the same thing with YouTube. People are just I want to create a YouTube channel, or they've got one and they're just cool, I want to build my YouTube channel and get 500, they want to increase their subscribers. And then the first thing people say is okay, well, if you want to increase your subscribers, how many subscribers are you going to say is good? Is a good increase? Or are you going to say, oh, you need a certain number of views or a certain number of likes? And they were saying, okay, but then how are you going to gauge that? How are you going to show that you've made these strategies to market the videos? So what are you going to use as your evaluator to say, oh yeah, actually based on what we've done, this is actually an indication that this video has done this much or this well. But yeah, I think it's really great to hear that you guys have that individual approach, which is so really key. Mental health is really important to us at Pick Up the Mic, and we love to share resources that can support your mental health. And that's why we are so glad to have today's sponsor. Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service, and it's 100% online. With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 30,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a wide range of issues. To get you started, you just answer a few questions about your needs and preferences in therapy. That way, BetterHelp can match you with the right therapist from their network. Then you can talk to your therapist however you feel comfortable, whether it's via text, chat, phone, or video call. You can message your therapist at any time and schedule live appointments when it's convenient for you. If your therapist isn't right for any reason, you can switch to a new therapist at no additional charge. With BetterHelp, you get the same professionalism and quality you expect from in-office therapy, but with a therapist who is custom-picked for you, more scheduling flexibility, and at an affordable price. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/pickupthemic. I've also linked them down below in the description. So again, that's betterhelp.com/pickupthemic, MIC, and start your journey today. So the next question is all about empowering businesses. And I think from the work that you've already shared, you've got amazing stories of the way you've been able to help businesses thrive and stand out in sort of a digital space. But we'd really like to know, both as an audience and as the person who's interviewing you, what are some of the most rewarding experiences that you've had? But then also if you could share a success story that stands out to you based on like work you've done with a client.
Sure. I think as a business, I think some of the rewarding things that have happened beyond obviously the client work that we do, because I think that is one of the biggest drivers of why I like to run the business, is because the results that we get for our clients and, you know, the impact that we see, you know, where we hear back from people and they genuinely are like, wow, you know, thank you so much for what you've done. You know, you've really helped. But, you know, the recognition that we've had for it as well, where we've won, you know, multiple awards, I think that really, certainly for me as the owner of the business, you know, it really helps me to find more motivation to keep doing what I'm doing. And then also, you know, I've won a personal award and had recognition for my own work within the agency. And, you know, to have that feedback from peers within the space, again, really gives me that motivation to be like, okay, cool, Jordan, you know, you're doing the right things. Keep going, keep pushing forward. And, you know, that really gives me that motivation and momentum to keep moving forward. And then in terms of like stories that have really inspired me, so I worked with a client who was a small local business in Chichester, and they were a tattooist, and they had been running for a little bit, and they had a fairly decent website, but they had some trouble with a competitor who kept appearing on Google searches above them. But here's the caveat, is that they were no longer operating. And they hadn't been operating for a very long time, and they were still somehow appearing above them. And during, you know, our strategy sessions where we sat down and discussed, you know, what are your pain points, you know, how can we help you? They said, you know, they've tried for months to try and remove this competitor, and they just haven't been able to do it. And obviously where we're kind of experts in the space, we were able to remove the competitor in 24 hours.
Nice.
And the client was like, how? I was like, you know, unfortunately, it's down to expertise, isn't it? You know, this isn't your space. You know, your bread and butter is, you know, what your business does. And, you know, that just in itself was a really inspirational moment. But on top of that as well, you know, we redesigned their website, and, you know, so the thing is, I think with just back to one of the first points to discuss, where you have tunnel vision, this client had some really, really good content on their website. So they had some really good videos, but they're at the bottom of the page. And I was like, but people want to see this stuff. Like generally, like I'd rather interact with a video than read, you know, contact us, you know? Yeah. You know, at least I have this interaction where I'm like, okay, let's, you know, find a little bit more about the business, and, you know, just watch an engaging video, because video content, as a lot of marketers and people in the space would know, you know, it's up and coming, and it has been since the implementation of YouTube. and then watch the podcast video as well, right? But yeah, so what we did as well, beyond obviously implementing all the new design elements and SEO best practices. So in doing all the work that we did, we actually moved the client to number 1 in their local rankings, and they were just like, "Oh my god, like wow!" And then on top of that, they actively said to us, like, we've really started to notice more people like filling in contact forms and visiting us, and was like, wow, and that kind of result is what really pleases me, because I'm like, that shows that the work that I'm doing is really valuable, especially for small businesses, because, I think it can be tough for small businesses, you don't always have loads and loads of budgets, and I think when working with a marketing agency, they can get a bit scared because they're like, "Oh, you're going to suck all our budgets." But that's where, we sit down and actually tailor the work that we do with our clients so that they can afford it. Because, traditionally I've worked in-house with agencies before, and I kind of feel like some of them, give other agencies a bad reputation because they try to upsell stuff that you don't necessarily need. It's more of a, nice to have, and I think that's kind of how we try to differentiate. But yeah, just those sort of stories really inspire me, and let me know that I'm doing work that is valuable and it's doing good in the world, right?
Yeah, that's incredible, man. That's incredible to hear. We come to the very last question, which is looking ahead to the future. So looking ahead, what would you say are some future trends in web design, in SEO space, that you believe will be critical for businesses to be aware of? And then the second part is, how do you plan to incorporate these trends into your services at Just Realistic Marketing?
Sure, that's a really interesting question, and there's so many avenues you could go down. You could talk for a lot longer than this episode, but I'll try and keep it short. So certainly in the SEO space. So recently, I think within the past month, actually, Google accidentally leaked some documents in regards to search engine optimization. Okay. And this really gave a lot of SEOs a competitive edge, because we basically saw the fundamentals of Google's algorithm and, what actually helps businesses to rank higher. There is a blog on our website, so you are more than welcome to check it out and get some more details on that. So the premise of it is that what we traditionally thought was ranking factors isn't necessarily the case. It's a long story, but we won't go into it too much. But then in terms of like the web design space and just marketing in general, it is going to be AI. AI, because it is so prevalent now, and I don't even think it's been has it been a year? Maybe just over a year since ChatGPT has been released or something. Time goes so fast when you're a business owner, I tell you. But it's just phenomenal the pace at which we are now developing AI tools. Every day there's a new AI tool that is popping up, and it's just like, before we know it, we won't need to. We won't need to breathe on our own anymore. We can get an AI tool to do that for us. And but yeah, no, just if you're scared of AI, don't be. I think things like the Terminator and stuff, that's not how AI works. At least not now. It's not sentient. It is based on algorithms which have set parameters. And I think, as business owners, we need to adopt these new trends. It's like the .com era. People who adopted that, they did great, But obviously, like with everything, things phase in, phase out. Exactly. So I think that's just the nature of, business and life itself. You have to be adaptable. And I've certainly noticed that, as a business owner, just back to, when I started, to just rebrand within the first 6 months of starting the business. I was like, oh gosh, that was a big challenge. But yeah, AI is going to be, the talk of this century. And also on our website, we do offer, I think we mentioned this before, but a bunch of free resources. Some of them are AI tools which you can look at, because there are loads of AI tools out there that are free to use. And yeah, that's what I would recommend. There are loads of other bits and bobs in digital marketing, but if you shameless plug, sign up to our newsletters,
Definitely.
get in touch, then we can provide more tailored support.
No, definitely. And I think you're right, because even, sometimes I see adverts pop up on YouTube about like Wix talking about their AI studio that they've added. We use Adobe products to edit some of our podcasts. Adobe's got an AI it's got AI tools to enhance audio for videos in within sort of Premiere Pro, but also it's got an AI assistant that can like read documents, give you an overview of documents on like Adobe Acrobat. There's like AI tools that can do like generation stuff. Like you said, Google's got its own sort of like ChatGPT version. Microsoft has got Copilot. Google's has Gemini. There's another one called Perplexity that is really good if you're looking like for a website that can give you like specific references. And I think, like you mentioned, a lot of them are free. And I think from there was a talk that I attended last year where they were talking about like AI tools and like tech, and they were saying like we said, the AI isn't something that people should sort of steer away from and feel like, actually, no, this is like very bad. I've mentioned it before when talking to like on the podcast at our like 3 anniversary. Like I mentioned it there as well, that we, for the most part, because we don't have a big team. We don't necessarily, like, everyone who helps out is volunteering. We clearly say, like I clearly say, like I know time wise we all have our own things, and sometimes things can get busy. So we do sometimes use like AI tools that can maybe help speed up the process of video editing or transcribing or, coming up with chapter markers and things like that. And for us, we say that, that's not to say that AI tools can't support your business or like it's not a good thing to use that can like aid the work that you're doing. But it's when you sort of like limit yourself to, you can't make your own decisions or you can't sort of think about things because you need, you want ChatGPT to recommend, I think there's a YouTube channel that we sort of like follow, and I always recommend to people who want to get into YouTube, called vidIQ. And they were saying like people sometimes will use, sometimes they use ChatGPT or like a chat box or AI chat box like ChatGPT, or they'll use like something else to like come up with tags for their videos, because they believe that like when it comes to like SEO optimization on YouTube, having loads of tags in your video will like greatly benefit how your video is seen on YouTube. And they were saying, actually, no, YouTube has actually even said that it's less about the tags you use. It's more about like tags are mainly just used for like if your video title could be known as something else. But also he said it's more about like clarifying what your video's about, and your description, your title and your thumbnail are more important than sort of curating SEO, creating tags for your video. So he was saying like, think about that. Like think about, is your tag, is your like thumbnail interesting? Does it bring people in? Does it clearly highlight to someone who's like scrolling on YouTube what your video is about? Does your title have an interesting hook? And then he said, but don't also then feel like, because I guess like we were saying before, if a big YouTuber's, got a unique style for their videos, that you then need to copy their unique style and think that that's going to work for you, because it might not. People might also just think that you're copying them. So I definitely agree that like using AI tools to support your business is really great, but using AI tools to run your business like completely, in the sense that you're not really inputting, you don't have a personal input or a personal decision. You're just sort of like maybe ask chat a question and take whatever it gives you like wholeheartedly as like, fact, and not maybe tailor it or rewrite it or review it to make sure it matches your overall like message and the way that you write things as a whole. It's really important. But yeah, I definitely agree that the future of AI is definitely an interesting one. Like you said, loads of organizations are coming up with their own AI tools, and it is cool to see sort of like what they can do and how they can support businesses. But I do definitely agree, and I guess the last point before we like wrap things up is, as you mentioned, a lot of them, like there are a lot of free alternatives that can do the same thing or very similar to what like fully paid versions do. So like, for example, I mentioned like Perplexity. Perplexity is one that someone recommended to me. It's like a free AI tool similar to ChatGPT, but it can come up. So like if you ask it a question, or even if you say like, oh, can I have a step-by-step guide of like how to upload a video on YouTube, it will give you reference. So it will first off like tell you what to do, but it also gives you like numbered references of like where it's got the information. So whereas with like ChatGPT, I mean, with ChatGPT, I think with the paid one, like it can give you the reference, but with Perplexity, it's like automatically built in. So anytime, let's say you wanted to get a piece of information, and you know maybe you wanted to know the best cameras to buy in 2024, it will give you like the specific websites that then you can click on, review, and say, oh, actually, you know, I don't agree with you, Perplexity. Like, this is completely wrong, or like, I don't think this is right, etc., etc. Which is quite interesting. And so yeah, there are a lot of like free versions, I guess is what I'm trying to say, that you shouldn't feel like, oh, if you do want to get into like using like AI tools and getting comfortable with it, you do have to use like a paid version, or you have to pay. So yeah, I definitely like recommend just play around with them. For the most part, they are like free. They might have like a limit on certain things that you can do. Maybe if it's like a video editing one, you can only do a certain number of hours each month. But yeah, I would say like definitely like check it out. It is definitely something, I'd say, regardless of whatever industry you are in, to have like knowledge of AI tools is quite useful. And I always like, especially when it comes to like video editing and stuff like that, I share ones that we use for the podcast that helps to sort of speed up our process here. But yeah, essentially, I'd say just get used to using AI tools.
Yeah, one thing I will add to that as well about just touching the point as well. If anyone's considering to try and run their business fully on AI, I know there are people out there that have done this and maybe done it okay. I don't know, but I think with a lot of AI tools as well is that they need human elements to them. They always need human review, and I think that's where people get scared as well. Is that AI is taking over, and I don't think it's the case. I just think the landscape of how we're working is changing, especially certain job functionalities like copywriters. I'm sure they've taken a hit. In fact, I see a study the other day that I think 20% of people who are hiring. Well, it's gone down 20% for the hiring of like copywriters since the implementation of ChatGPT. But I'm sure that 20% has probably been changed into, well, now we need somebody to run ChatGPT, because you're always going to need human elements to AI. I mean, maybe we'll get to a case of where we have AI for the AI, and then we're still going to need human elements to it. So I think that's probably where people get scared, is where AI is taking over, but it's not the case. It's just transforming the way that we do work, and it's a good thing because it's just human evolution and technology advances. So embrace them. And as Jeffrey said, as you said, there are a lot of tools out there which are free to use. Give them a go. I've used tools for copywriting, for image generation. You could make PowerPoints from tools. There's so many different tools for so many different things. That's just three minor examples, but there's lots of other things out there. So
definitely. And I will say, as you mentioned, like there's a lot of, well, I guess the first point of call would be to check out the blog on your website.
Yes, please.
But yeah, definitely, like there's so many, and you can just sort of like review, and there are loads of websites that do clearly say like, oh, if you've heard of ChatGPT and have considered paying it, this is actually a free alternative that will do the same thing as the paid version. And like it will break down for like different sectors and say like, oh, if you want to go into like graphic design, there's this paid one. If you want a free one that can do almost the exact same thing, use this. But yeah, we've come to the end of the episode. It's been great speaking to you, Jordan.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Here's the shameless plug part. So if people want to know a bit more about you, a bit more about your business, maybe they want to get in touch with you about specific services that you guys offer, what's the best way for them to do?
Sure. So you can either visit our website, which is justrealisticmarketing.co.uk. But I'm also very active on LinkedIn. So Jordan Rutland, and you should be able to find me fairly easy. I don't think there's a lot of Jordan Rutlands out there. But yeah, please do, if you got any burning questions, marketing related or, entrepreneurial related, then please do reach out to me. And yeah, obviously on our website, we've, got some really useful free marketing resources. And then obviously our newsletter and our blog, which I think provides a lot of value for our clients. And yeah, just if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn as well, just send me a connection request and then we can stay in touch. So yeah, but thank you very much, Jeffrey. And thanks to Pick Up the Mic and everybody who's watching and listening. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. And yeah, thank you to you, our wonderful audience, for coming back for another episode. If you like this episode, like, comment, and subscribe is always appreciated. If you want to make sure you don't miss any episodes of the Hustle Chronicles or any of the other podcasts under the Pick Up the Mic YouTube channel, then please make sure you click the notification bell at the bottom of the video. If you want to receive some perks, maybe you want to get involved in the Pick Up the Mic community, a bit more, you want to support us, please check out our Patreon page, which is linked down below. But you can also check out our literally the word flew out of my mouth, but the YouTube channel membership that we have as well, you can join for the price of a coffee. So yeah, if you're interested in checking those out, please do. As I mentioned, we do have merch, and we started to sell some merch. We've got we will link essentially how you can get in touch with that, and get in touch with us about that later. But essentially, if you do want to get some merch, you do get a reduced price if you're paying Patreon member. So check out our Patreon page and pay for that if you're interested in getting some merch. And then finally, as I always say, we've got 3 other YouTube channels. So if you're interested in sci-fi and fantasy and discussions around that, please check out the Two Maces channel with Joshua and Morgan. If you're interested in learning a bit more about the world of gaming, whether it's discussing gaming characters, gaming experiences, but also the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion within the field of gaming, then please do check out Pick Up the Controller. And then finally, if you are interested in the world of anime and you want to learn about anime organizations within London that you could maybe get involved with, events that you could attend, please check out the Senseis of Anime YouTube channel as well. You can find all 3 YouTube channels on our main YouTube page. So as soon as you click on the home page, you will find it all there. But yeah, we're going to close today's chapter of the Hustle Chronicles. We will see you all in the next episode, where I think we should be approaching that point where we've reached a year mark of doing the podcast. So you will start to see some familiar faces coming back on to discuss their business. But yeah, if not, you'll see a different entrepreneur with a different business discussing how they have grown and developed. So keep an eye out. If there's any questions that you want us to ask, let us know, and we will see you all in the next episode.